This time, Recep Tayyip Erdogan truly has unbridled power. Turkey's leader of 15 years, winning re-election with an outright majority in Sunday's first round to become the first president with enhanced executive powers. How will he use those new powers, powers born of the constitutional reform that he pushed through last year? At 64, Erdogan is now set to become Turkey's longest-serving leader of the modern era, eclipsing the republic's founder Kemal Atatürk. We'll ask our panel just how much he's going to be lording over a weakened parliament. Parliament where, despite having the odds stacked in his favor, despite that post-coup crackdown on dissent, the jailing of journalists, the firing of judges and civil servants, Erdogan's AK party looks set to lose seats. The liberal Kurdish-rooted HDP party stays in the legislature. It won the third most number of seats, was the vibrant campaign, the world with 87% turnout, proof that, well, democracy is still alive in Turkey. Or did we just witness the swan song of a nation about to experience what one analyst calls turbocharged one-man rule? Today in the France 24 debate, we're looking at what you could call him Erdogan Almighty. We'll be joined from Istanbul by political advisor Onur Erim, author of The Presidential Governance System. Here in the studio, sociologist Denise Bakriacek, the author of Ask Them If They Like Us, which is about the perception of Turks here in Europe, right?
Yeah. No, it's not in Europe, actually.
Throughout the world.
Yeah, the Europeans, and also like I interviewed...
Ah, that's right, the Europeans in Turkey.
Yes.
Okay.
Not only Europeans, 48 different people in Turkey, the foreigners that I interviewed.
Also joining us, Firat Baran, spokesperson in Paris for the People's Democratic Congress, which includes the HDP party.
Exactly.
Welcome to the show. The France 24 debate on Facebook and Twitter. Hashtag F24debate. How do Turks feel on the day after the elections? Well, it's all a matter of who you ask.
We're happy, inshallah. We hope everything will be better with this result. Maybe God wanted this.
I think they're cheating, as always. They did it before. They're cheating in every election.
Everything went really well. I'm so happy with the results. Freedom is everywhere in Turkey. Nothing is banned. Maybe if the opposition had won, it wouldn't be the case.
I voted, and I'm very disappointed with the results. I did my duty, but I believe most people went out and voted for the wrong candidate. I'm so sad. I blocked all my friends on Facebook who were celebrating this as a victory.
Denise Bagric, we remember last year when there was that constitutional referendum, there were allegations of fraud, a lot of bitterness on the day after Election Day. It's a different mood, though, this time around.
Yeah, I think it's just, personally, I don't believe there was some fake votes or nothing. This is like, we are living in a social crisis age. So this is, for me, this is the first time that
Erdogan won fair and square.
Yeah, I think so. Like, it could be in every election that we saw in states, we saw in Russia. There's some percentage of, like, we can call it fake votes or whatever it is, or fraud. But I think he really won the elections, and as a sociologist, I think it was normal because, like, there is an explanation of it. Like, we are living in a social crisis age, and we are changing from the industrial revolution to the digital age, and also, like, now the third industrial revolution is coming, and the social values are changing, and people are looking for and they see the values are changing in the society. They want to stick for some things, and like that they want to believe. And this is like the Habermas says, like, this is also a legitimation crisis, where people don't see the institutions, administrations as they were before. And they want to believe a leader, one power, and Erdogan.
A strong leader.
A strong leader. This is the same with the Trump. I'm not a very... I wouldn't say like I'm not surprised, because also we see with the Trump, people want a strong leader, if the things that this is really a populism age, if the things are right or not, people believe it. And also we all see in the fake news in the social media, who cares? It's just like we are scrolling, we are swapping our screens and they just passed. And somehow this is not important.
Well, there's two sides to that social media issue, isn't there? Because Firat Baran, we have we'll talk about it perhaps later on, but even though the airtime was stacked in favor of the AKP, the opposition still managed to garner votes.
Yeah, but first of all, I want to clarify something. Trump and Erdogan, they look alike, but they are not exactly the same. Trump doesn't have the control of over 90% of American media outlets, but Erdogan does. And Trump has never said that to his supporters, be careful, watch the opponents, watch them, because Erdogan, behind the doors, and he was caught on video, he said that, I really want to quote, because you just talked about the fraud, if they cheated in these elections, if this election was corrupted. I think, yes, it's corrupted, exactly the same like the last election. Because we cannot, even if,
All right, let me interrupt you on that, Firat Baran, because I want your reaction to this. Election monitors from the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe criticizing the unequal airtime on the campaign, the jailing and intimidation of opposition supporters, irregularities. Yet, the firebrand leader of the center-left opposition, who agrees, saying, nonetheless, Muharrem İnce, by his own tally, yes, Recep Tayyip Erdogan won the election.
Yeah, he said that.
There are no significant differences between the records that were transmitted by our polling station officers and the figures and rates announced by the Supreme Election Council. So I accept the results of the election.
So do you agree with İnce?
Well, I agree and I disagree, because he lost this election. He lost this election, even if he did a really good campaign. But we cannot say that this election was fair and not corrupted and there was no cheating in it. Because let's see this, they just detained PCF members. They were observers from France.
Yeah, there were French observers who were detained, while monitoring the vote.
Exactly, they were monitoring. Why do you do that? I mean, you cannot do that in a democratic country. You cannot do that. And plus, in Şanlıurfa, the police officers caught some bags full of votes and stamped on Erdogan.
But not enough to sway the final outcome.
Of course not. Of course not. I'm not saying this. I'm not saying this, because this is not what Erdogan needs. He only needs 2% or 3% of vote.
But I think the Muharrem İnce did something really nice, saying by accepting the results, and because this is the problem, we need to stay concrete, like the concrete result. If we are saying something, if there is a fraud, we should go and manifest for that. And what if we have the
proof? We can't do anything.
We can't do anything. I don't think that we have enough proof to. I think this is also. I'm sorry.
Okay.
This is also a good example of Turkey. We want to stay in a democratic ways, and we did everything. Everyone went to vote.
Yeah, 87% turnout.
Is something that we should be proud of with Turkey. We went it. We did. Okay. If we like it or not, Erdogan, we don't know what is going to happen after this. I'm not saying, but this is the fact that we need to accept. And after this, I'm sorry.
Finish it,
And after with this result, we should to deal what to do. But we can't just say there is a fraud, there is a corruption. So if there is, we just need to agree with it. I mean, not agree with it, but find a solution for that.
My answer is that, the videotape is just taken by a AKP member. And I quote what Erdogan said. If in a democratic country a leader says this, he will be tried. He will be 100% tried. You cannot say this during an election. He said, I quote, he says our party member needs to have a different approach to the HDP in a different way. I would say, I wouldn't say this openly in public, but this is why I'm talking to you here. You know all the people in your neighborhood, so you know who is who. So you should put the spotlight on the HDP voters and start a special work on them. Right after this meeting with the
this was a few weeks back. This
during the election campaign.
Now let's take a look now what happens, because despite all those efforts, the HDP is in parliament. There's a 10% threshold. Let's just show our viewers here. The AK party with the outgoing parliament had 316 seats. The CHP was on 131, and the HDP 47. According to unofficial figures, the AK party falling to 5 seats short of an outright majority. This is the incoming parliament, 42% of the vote, but a comfortable margin when added to the nationalists of the MHP. Both the CHP, the center left, and the HDP gaining in seats in this election. Now, we know the leader of that party is been campaigning from jail, but Firat Baran, your thoughts on, nonetheless, the fact that despite all of this, you're going to have a voice in parliament. Does that give you some faith in the system?
Well, I would like to have some faith in the system. If our votes, the Kurdish votes, would mean anything. Because look at the mayors. We got 13 city mayors, 9 of them are just ousted. And you got government trustees. And we got our leader jailed in prison, and many lawmakers together with them. So, I mean, the Kurdish people vote for our party. But Erdogan just put those lawmakers in prison to say, I mean, in a way, to say that people's will means nothing for me.
I think maybe it's better to discuss about conditions to the elections were equal or not, or democratic could be better. But I think the elections were not corrupted, but the way that
not the vote on voting day.
Yes, no, I mean the way that we walked together on that way. Until that way, there was lots of problems. One of them is just for years, starting from the 1980s, the education system has changed in Turkey, and now we see all the results. The Erdogan is not somewhat.
He didn't come out of nowhere.
Nowhere, exactly, and it was a long process, and this is not a new thing. So we just need to look with this perspective of the things, with the social values which are changing, the democracy.
And Turkey's becoming more conservative.
Some parts, yes.
Because from the outside, it looks polarized. It looks like the nation's cut in half.
I don't want to seem very optimistic, but also we are giving such a good example of democracy as some part of the Turkey. We are coming more, having this sense of even some parts of they were called more nationalists, secular nationalists. We are more open to the minorities and trying to understand and really identified with this democratic values. And this is a good example of democracy that we are progressing on. And I think if we need to cooperate with European Union, this is so important. We need to have a global sense of the humanist values.
Goes. It's not Erdogan.
Let's talk about where Erdogan is going. There was that failed coup from nearly 2 years ago. Afterwards, there was a crackdown, a state of emergency on the campaign trail. Erdogan vowing he would soon lift that state of emergency. That said, thanks to this constitutional reform, he'll have plenty of powers under the new constitution. Anka Ula has more.
Emerging from the biggest electoral challenge to his 15-year rule, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is more powerful than ever. Erdogan and his ruling AKP claimed victory in presidential and parliamentary elections this weekend.
Our people have given us the job of carrying out the executive posts. By giving the People's Alliance and the AK party the majority in parliament, and therefore the legislative authority, they have given us a great responsibility.
Erdogan called the snap elections 2 months ago, saying he wanted to speed up the application of a new presidential system. Under that system, he will consolidate his executive power, slashing the post of prime minister. He also will pick his cabinet members, who previously were elected lawmakers. The influence of parliament will be reduced, including the power of budget oversight, giving Erdogan control of the budget. And his rule could be extended even further. Erdogan can run for a second term, meaning he could be in power until the year 2028. The so-called executive presidency was voted narrowly, 51 to 49%, in a referendum in April 2017. Erdogan's opponents and international observers have raised concerns over the president's increasingly authoritarian tendencies. Back when he was first elected, he was seen as a pro-European moderate who supported democracy and economic liberalization. But since a failed coup 2 years ago, he's overseen a sweeping crackdown on intellectuals, civil servants, and journalists under a state of emergency law that Erdogan is now under pressure to lift.
Well, let's cross to Istanbul and welcome Onur Erim, author of The Presidential Governance System, political consultant. Thank you for joining us here in the France 24 debate. What's going to happen going forward now that Erdogan has won his constitutional battle, has got all these powers, these executive powers? Does it mean that the crackdown is going to continue, or are we going to see some of those journalists freed from jail? Are we going to see him easing off the opposition?
Hello, Francois. Have a good show tonight. Well, first of all, let's just backtrack a little bit about the presidential system and Turkey. This could be dated as far back to as, in some ways, Atatürk's thoughts in how to run Turkey. It could be mentioned, or it could be honored about with late Menderes, late Özal, late Demirel, late Erbakan. So this system, to implement it in Turkey, it wasn't just Erdogan's dream. It has been a dream for a long time by many of the great rulers of the country. What is going to happen? What's going to come up next in Turkey? How the system is going to change? Is we're going to wait. We're going to have to wait and see. But maybe this could be a little sneak preview. What has been very much criticized in Turkish politics, or the way the elections were held, where many of the parties, many of the sections of the community, the Turkish population, were left out. For the first time ever in Turkish history, there are 8 parties. I think the most we had was either 4 or 5 in the past. We now have 8 parties. However, we are not even talking about right now problems of coalitions and the problems that will come on board because of the existence of coalitions. So,
but how much does Recep Tayyip Erdogan? How much does he need a coalition now? He doesn't have a prime minister anymore. He doesn't need to have cabinet members confirmed by parliament. Just how weakened is parliament now?
I will never say that there's aspects of this that we should not discuss or we should not improve. However, do not forget, the president, the executive power, has absolutely no say with the new laws that to be passed. Nor does he have any say in the budget process every year. He's just going to propose it. Whether to pass new laws, actually to make new laws, is totally up to the parliament. To pass the budget is also totally up to the parliament. And where right now, with after this election, Erdogan's party, AK Party, does not have a majority right now. So he will need to compromise. He will need to discuss and come to some kind of terms with maybe not one, but more than one party within the parliament right now.
And it's the Nationalist Party. It's the Nationalist Party. They have already
I would
worked
just love
together.
to say
So
hi to Istanbul. He's in Istanbul, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Erim, hello. I just want to say, you say great rulers, but I would love to say that is a lack of. It's a show of a lack of democracy. Like if they wanted to have the system that for one man, the system with the dominance of with a one man, I don't think it's just all the great rulers would love to this. This is exactly the problem of how the democratic issues were going wrong in Turkey.
But you were telling us earlier how right now Turks in a changing world want a strong leader.
Exactly. This is the society. This is the Turkish society. Why they elected Erdogan? Because this is it's like they're in the blood. There was lots of mistakes in terms of democracy, not only on the AKP or on that part, but also in many of the CHP, many of the parties were ruling in the same mentality, with the one man ruled over the CHP for years. Even they made mistakes, or the NGOs, third parties, business in Turkey.
Firat Baran was saying a moment ago how the most likely scenario is a coalition with the hardline nationalists. If that's the case, people are saying you can rule out any chance, for instance, of a warming of relations or rekindling of peace talks with Kurdish armed groups, this on either side of the Syrian border. And we heard a glimpse of that in Erdogan's acceptance speech Sunday night.
Turkey made its decision in favor of fighting decisively against all terrorist organizations, including PKK and FETÖ. At the same time, these results show that we will continue to liberate Syrian lands and open the way for our guests in our country to return home safely.
Onur Erim, is Turkey going to extend its campaign in Syria?
I think Turkey is going to do whatever it sees fit to make sure that its borders and all of its seas, especially the ones near the border, are secure. When President Erdogan talked about the security-taking measures within the Syrian or Iraqi borders, with the problems or the armed groups over there, he did not he did not place a line where to stop. He said, "We will do this. We will continue until our borders are."
Because it's not a security issue; it's an invasion. If you call security issues on the border, you're gonna say that I will stop after 10 kilometers because it's an invasion, and it's a new Ottoman policy.
Sir, excuse me, sir. I was in Kilis about 2 months ago doing a live report for a TV station, and a bomb was sent from across the Syrian border about 100 feet from me, and 3 people died. So don't tell me about an invasion or not. It's a security issue.
Can you give me an example of your border aggression from Syrian part before the invasion of Turkish troops in Syria, in Afrin, or other parts?
I can't give you one. I could give you about 100. I don't think
okay.
I can't give you one. I could give you 100. You don't have the time to in the program.
People should know this because
it is a total lie and it's a total mislead.
Turkish intelligence service said that.
Excuse me.
We don't need border
you are
aggression.
talking about this from France.
Yeah, we're gonna send people and they will bomb.
From France. I am in Turkey. I live here, and I was right there.
One at a time.
And the bomb went off 100 feet from me. Oh, I'm sorry. It's just that I can't stop where something I lived as opposed to something that you guys see from the TV. I wish you guys could come along and walk with me through the border and see it for yourself.
Let me ask you the question, because there was, at one point, they were close to a deal with the jailed PKK leader Öcalan. There was talk of getting the peace process through. All that was put on hold, critics say, for electoral reasons. Right now that Erdogan has these powers concentrated in his hands, the fact that he's got this coalition with the hardline nationalists, does that prevent any future peace talks?
Probably not. I mean, listen, the aura in the air back where the peace, the new era with the Kurds, not just in Turkey but the entire region, the peacemaking process started. Everybody was very hopeful, and I do believe many people on both sides went into this with a very wholeheartedly. But something went wrong. Somebody's foot were stepped. Going forward, looking into the future, can we be hopeful? Hopefully, we all can. Do not forget. I mean, I knew the numbers were like this before this election on Sunday. I'm pretty sure the numbers are like this right now. There are probably more ethnic Kurds in AK Party right now in the parliament than there are those in HDP.
You got no proof for that. You got no proof for that. HDP party
I'm talking about people.
Generally,
I am talking about people claiming themselves to be ethnic Kurds.
Come on. You got.
I'm sorry.
We got the figures over here. We got. Just have a look. Have a look at the HDP's votes in Kurdish cities. You're gonna have the answer. You shouldn't manipulate people here. You know.
I think you misunderstood what I said. I said there were right before Sunday. I don't know what the figure is right now. There are more ethnic Kurds. Ethnically Kurdish Turkish citizens in AK Party parliament than there were in HDP is what I exactly said.
So in HDPs, they're all Armenians, they're all Greeks, they're all homosexuals, that people that you don't like. Is that what you want to say?
Who doesn't like?
I mean,
if you want to put words into my mouth, let me just stop. You could speak for me as well. If you want to put words into my mouth, let me stop.
All right,
you could
gentlemen,
just speak for me.
Let's keep it civil.
Too.
Firat Baran, what will it take to restart peace talks?
Well, first of all, these people should recognize that the Kurds have their right to decide their future. See this? They say that the Kurds in HDP are not ethnic Kurds. So they got a nationalistic view, and they see this like this. We don't see things like that. For us...
But there are a lot of Kurds who did vote for Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
Yeah, we don't ignore this. Right. I mean, we don't ignore this. But to say that ethnic Kurds are more than in AKP than HDP is a big lie and is a big disinformation. So the peace will come when we respect each other, when we respect the differences, when we don't say that we got ethnics more than you. The peace talk will start again if we accept these.
Time is running short, and I want to get to something which you broach in your book, which is the perception of Turkey.
Yeah.
Right now, among those congratulating Erdogan, Russia's president, who says the result showed the Turkish leader's great political authority and mass support. Now, the response more measured out of Berlin. This is the spokesperson for the German government, saying, "We are looking forward to continuing a constructive, beneficial working relationship between the German and Turkish governments." It's a bit of a frosty congratulations there. What's the perception as you see it over the last 3 years? How has it changed here in France or of Turks, of Turkey, and what's going to be the relationship going forward?
I think one of the most interesting things that I discovered through the book, like when I was interviewing foreigners, they think the most beautiful part of Turkey, it's the being secular country where they can have a real dialogue and a real cooperation between Europe, Middle East, and we have such an important role in the region. So in order to keep this, we need to go like that. This is the fundamental values that we have in Turkey, and this is where all the minorities, or the people from different religion, different belief, that we can really have a common value. This is the secularism of the...
And what's the trend right now?
I think this is all, like for a few years, this is the same thing, because we really, I think especially after the coup d'etat, like the fake coup d'etat, like we really truly believe that the secularism is so important for Turkey, and we believe this is our common value, and this is where we need to go with this. While we are going in the European commissions, like we are talking in the international areas, like this is our common value. If even if you're Muslim, Christian.
Onur Erim, what's the future of the relationship now between Turkey and the European Union?
My presumption is that it can't get any worse. It could only get better, hopefully. But I think on both sides, we have seen a glimpse of this from Great Britain a couple of months ago, some warmer messages towards Turkey. We have seen some warmer approaches by Chancellor Merkel. So hopefully it will get better. And Erdogan, President Erdogan, has been making some more positive speeches towards his approach to Europe. So the relationship got to such a bad condition in the past few years. Nobody can deny this. Hopefully it can only get better and not worse.
Is it that bad, though? Because there are critics of Turkey who say effectively the European Union is paying the country ransom money to keep the migrants out. The migrant crisis is going to be top of the agenda at the EU summit later this week.
I think we got a fraction of the 6 billion euros that was promised by the EU to Turkey, a very, very, very small fraction. Is it really that worse? You got an Austrian prime minister or foreign minister who just said that those that voted for Erdogan should go back to Turkey, which is I don't even want to mention what I don't want to make an analogy because it would sound very bad. So is it really that bad? Yeah, it is on the European side, and it's not much better. If not much worse on this side either.
Firat Baran?
Well, Turkey is surely not looking for EU membership. At the beginning, they wanted this because they got no power. AKP didn't have the control of the country, media, army, anything. So it was a cool thing to say that we are heading towards the West. Right now, he got all his powers. He's intimidating European journalists. I mean, he's just put in jail Turkish journalists, Kurdish journalists. He can do this, but he cannot do this in Europe. He's just intimidating those journalists and also the leaders, European leaders. So this is kind of blackmailing, getting all those immigrants over there and saying that we're gonna let them go to the Europe. So I don't think that Erdogan will look for EU membership. He got his own plan, you know. He will maybe cooperate with Russia, China, and Iran, with these three countries, and he got his own agenda, you know, new Ottoman era. So he will not gonna go say that we will go at the doors of the West. So,
Onur Erim, with these enhanced executive powers, you have a leader who has already been running the country for 15 years. Now, the logic is that when you are in power for a long time, your inner circle gets smaller and smaller. Is it going to be tougher for Erdogan to stay in touch with reality as time goes on?
Again, you're absolutely right. As you're in power for this long period of time, your circle does seem to get smaller and smaller. Something that President Erdogan mentioned a couple of times, especially after the new year, that he will have to do some major changes, as he did with the municipal governance in October and in September, with the executive places as well. Now, there's a very good indication as to maybe a brand new team of executors with him in the executive office doing this. How do we know this? He has he has actually nominated almost all of his cabinet in the parliament again. And with the new law, once you're in the parliament, you would have to resign to become a minister to be in the cabinet. With a less than a majority right now, I don't think President Erdogan can afford to have a part or a few of his old cabinet members in the new one, because that would mean more seats lost for him. Would he do it? Maybe for one or two people, but that's it. So I think he has indicated, he has planned, he has talked about this, and now he's acting upon a brand new cabinet and a brand new team of people around him in the executive office.
Well, Deniz Bakriyacik, there's of course always elections. Next year, I think it's municipal elections.
Yeah.
What will the Turkey of next year look like?
It's hard to say, but if the Muammer Ince is a new hope, if he can really work with this new attitude of the democracy that we were talking, like the common values, it's always local elections more different. It's a bit different.
Last time they were very fractious.
Yeah, and so I think local elections could be different. It's always new hopes, like the local authorities are different. We can have more different results than that, but this year will be very important on the Turkish modern history, I think.
All right, I want to thank you, Deniz Bakriatchik. I want to thank Onur Erim for being with us from Istanbul, Firat Baran.
Thank you.
Stay with us. Our World Cup Daily is next.